So now that you've completed number 6 and number 10, we're going to go over them together. So you may not have completed your problem exactly like I'm completing mine, but as long as you got the same answer in the end, that means you did it right. So what I'm going to do for this problem is I'm going to begin by subtracting 2x from both sides. Again, you may not have solved it this way. You may have started by subtracting 5x from both sides. But as long as your graph and your interval notation and your inequality notation at the end are the same as mine, you got the answer right. So if you're following along with me and you are solving it the way I solved it, then 2x cancels on the left. Negative 1 is less than or equal to 5 minus 2 is 3x plus 20. So since I brought 2x over to this side, that means I need to take 20 over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. So negative 1 minus 20, negative 21 is less than or equal to 3x. So from here, in order to solve for x, I have to divide both sides by 3. That means that negative 7 is less than or equal to x. So here's where, if you did not work it the way I worked it, you want to compare your answer with mine. But before we do that, we always want the variable to be on the left. Remember, we can only trust the arrow if the variable is on the left. Okay, so the way I solved it, the variable is on the other side. The variable is over here on the right. So to switch it, what I need to do is put x over here and negative 7 over here. But you don't want to lose how the inequality affects the problem. So you see how the arrow is pointing towards 7. You see how the arrow is pointing towards negative 7. I want to rewrite it and keep it so that the arrow is pointing towards negative 7. So in order to switch these, I have to switch the symbol. And the reason for that, again, is the arrow was originally pointing towards negative 7. So even though I move the x over here and the 7 over here, I have to keep the arrow pointing towards the negative 7. Otherwise, you change the meaning of your answer. So now that the variable is on the left, I can trust the direction that it's pointing. So I'm ready to graph. Negative 7, we're going to use a closed circle. So because we have or equal to underneath, and we're going to go to the right because the arrow is pointing to the right. So if you solved your problem differently than the way I solved mine, as long as you have this and this the same as mine, then you are good to go. The other thing that you need to have the exact same as mine is interval notation. We go along the number line from left to right. The first thing that we come to is negative 7. We're going to use a bracket because we have or equal to underneath our inequality symbol. And we keep going along the number line from left to right. The last thing we come to is positive infinity. So I need a positive infinity, always a parenthesis on positive infinity and negative infinity. So I use a parenthesis at the end. Okay, number 10, we have a lot of distributing we need to do. The first distribution we have to do is this negative 1. Remember, anytime you see a negative in front of a parenthesis, that's a distribution of negative 1. So negative 1 times 3x, negative 3x, negative 1 times 3, negative 3, copying down negative 2x because that's what's next in the problem. Greater than symbol. Starting over with distributing negative 4. negative 4 times x, negative 4x, negative 4 times negative 2, positive 8, and then copying down the negative 2 because that's part of the problem. Now, on the left-hand side, we have like terms. We have negative 3x and negative 2x. That's going to be negative 5x. Minus 3, greater than symbol. On the right-hand side, we have like terms, 8 minus 2. So I'm going to copy down negative 4x. 8 minus 2 is positive 6. Okay, so from here, you may not have solved your problem the exact same way that I did, but just keep hanging with me until the end to see if you got it right. So we're going to add 5x to both sides the way that I'm going to do it. I'm going to add 5x to both sides. I'm going to bring down the negative 3, the greater than symbol. Negative 4 plus 5 is 1x, which we don't need that 1. Bring down the positive 6. The next thing I'm going to do is subtract 6 from both sides. Negative 9 greater than x. So I have this inequality, negative 9 greater than x. But remember, in order to trust the direction that the arrow is pointing, the variable must be on the left. So remember from the last problem when I ran into this issue, I switched the order. Means I have to switch the inequality. So if I want to put x on the left and the number on the right, I have to make sure that the arrow continues to point towards x. So that means when I rewrite it, it switches to go the other way. So now we're ready to graph. I'm going to put negative 9 on the number line. I'm going to put an open circle above negative 9 because we don't have or equal to underneath our inequality. The arrow is pointing to the left, so I'm going to draw my arrow to the left. Then I'm ready for interval notation. Starting from the left, going to the right, the first thing that we come to is negative infinity. So parenthesis, negative infinity, comma, the last thing that we come to from left to right is negative 9. So negative 9 and parenthesis is how we end interval notation. So even if you didn't solve your inequality the way that I did, as long as you got this, this, and this, your answer is correct.